a little bit of the story about these people here. I don't want to be talking about myself. I'm going to be talking about the people that I learned from. And basically, the story goes, there was a gentleman from Switzerland. His name is Ernst Gosch. And in the 70s, he was doing the beginning, the pioneering of what is the genetical manipulation of plants, the GMO. And he was like, I can't do this. So he took off right away. And he met some people in Costa Rica. He learned some agroforestry. And from then, he found a partner and he bought with him about 1,500 acres of land in Brazil. Now, when he got to Brazil and he started, his farm, everything had been clear-cutted from the previous owner that he had a mill, all right? So everything that he did was taking the agroforestry ideas, but he was in the middle of nowhere. Brazil is pretty big and you have about minimum 5 different climates, okay? So it's not a place where he was at that he could just go to Home Depot and buy compost, or he had, access to machinery. What he did was look at nature and learn from nature how to do what he had to do, okay? So maybe one day I'll show you another video. He reforested 1,500 acres with 60 people only by hand. What I mean by hand is like machete and hoe, nothing else, okay? So what he learned from nature is how to mimic its cycles and how to mimic how the forest comes back when it's being taken out, and what to do in order to not just follow nature's steps, but how to expedite that process. Because nature will do it. If you go to anywhere right now, you can look at that map, and all that's being cut and put a bunch of concrete on top. But if you open that space, it will take a long time for it to come back by itself. And depends on the areas, it will not come back at all, because it will change for a long time the climate on that area. So with the understanding, we can speed up that process. So this video that I want to show you guys is one of the places that he teaches at. This is a smaller farm, is about 500 acres. But he implemented all the concepts that they learned to grow food in a commercial scale, okay? So that's why I want to show you this one instead of the other one, because the other one today looks like a forest, and there are not many videos that shows how it is inside of it, with all the fruit trees and all the native trees growing together. But this one is exclusively on how to grow food commercially. And then I'll tell you why I want to show you this towards the end, okay? So let's get this going. And by the way, if at any moment you understand what he's saying or why he's saying that, we should try to get that Italian out of there, so that way people can, because they're in Portuguese and you might have to read it, and if you don't understand something,
you have the English right underneath it.
Yeah. So that's why ideally it will be that we can read the English. I never had this issue before.
If you just press the CC, you can
it should be on the CC.
Yeah, just press the CC. Click on it. Oh yeah, there you go. Subtitles. Oh.
They're off.
Okay, now they're off.
Maybe.
Okay. I think we're good.
That's it.
Is it good? Okay, let's try. That's fine. Okay, so I just want to share something before I keep on going. It says in the center of Brazil. So Brazil in the middle. People think it's all a Amazon, but it's not. Okay, so in the middle you have something like a plateau. Okay, it's basically all a high elevated rock, flat. Okay, underneath you have a bunch of quartz and other things, a lot of minerals area. So what happens up above, if you look on the right side, on the top right, you'll find a lot of areas that are very susceptible to be degraded because they're really, I don't want to say dry, but you have soil in crevices of rock, basically. All right? So yes, you have some of the heat, but it's a little drier then people will think it is, because people think Brazil is all humid like right now, and it's not. Okay, go ahead.
How does this apply to Florida growing?
I'll share as we go. Okay. The reason I'll share it quickly. When you are growing in agroforestry style, in Syntropic Agroforestry, these people put together, you're not just going and growing your crop on top of the soil, you're growing your soil at the same time. Okay, and I'll share how they do that. Okay. And that's why we need to learn how to do this, because people here have a hard time growing everything on sand, and they complain about it, right? And then what do you have? Only one option, which is either a bunch of truckloads of mulch and compost, but then what? It gets washed off with the rain or whatever. Problems, right? There's problems. So if we try to combat nature, go against it, and try to use the ideas that we have learned from conventional or industrial agriculture and apply it, that's not gonna work, because we're not using the machinery, we're not using all the stuff that conventional agriculture is using, right? But if we're working with nature, different story, okay? So let's see if those subtitles are gone. So these two are his main students.
Quando as pessoas vêm aqui no sítio, que é um dos vários
Can you pause really quick?
aqui é uma das salas de aula dele. Agora a gente
Okay, can you go back to the first picture? Really quick? Right there. Just to give you a preview, okay, of what we're going to be showing. Roll a little more.
No.
No, like
Where the guy's face was something.
yeah, when he started talking. Display.
Distrito Federal, a gente conheceu dois agricultores.
The next gentleman.
The next one, yes. Yeah, that one doesn't have any picture.
Aplicando os princípios da agricultura sintrópica do Larry Schmidt. Quando as pessoas vêm aqui no
There we go. So, basically, they're going to start showing certain ideas about Syntropic Agroforestry, which is a little different than the rest. You have many different of agroforestry systems, okay? Usually it's just as soon as you start adding some trees, or you're not chopping down, the native forest, you have like about 5 main different ways, okay? This is slightly different. But if you see, this guy is growing a cacao, a papaya, banana, and a couple more crops going on all at the same time, okay? And contrary to all the other places that you see farming, you cannot see any soil. Look at that soil over there. Just a bunch of foliage, okay? So these people, what they're doing is they're growing everything as we go. That's what I was just sharing, okay?
Porque esse é um dos trabalhos que o Ernest desenvolve pelo Brasil, né? Aqui é uma das salas de aula dele. Agora a gente está criando um modelo, um sistema, que ele pode ser adaptável para 80% das terras do Brasil. O que está acontecendo? A gente ainda não divulgou isso. Isso ainda não está na boca do povo. Isso ainda não passa nas televisões.
Mas a vantagem do nosso tempo é que quem busca, encontra informação. E o Agenda Gate quer contribuir para isso, compartilhando experiências que mostram que os serviços ambientais são a consequência de uma boa agricultura.
Can you hold on one
O
second?
que nos interessa é dar voz.
Go back to the previous picture before the lady. Not that much part. Like you went back like a lot. Just
I can tell you.
the previous picture, a little more. Like let's put the thing right next to it. Uh-oh.
Sorry, brother. I'm a new
That's a
person.
different video.
That's a good one too.
Yeah.
Sorry, brother. I'll go back for it and I'll get on the same page with you.
Maybe I'll play with that thing.
Okay, that might be the best.
I'm not touching it. I'm over here. He did that.
I did. I was trying to help.
Experiências reais
Okay.
da agricultura
But
sintrópica
if
do
you'd
Brasil.
like, I can. We're syncing up right now.
Desenvolve pelo Brasil.
A little more.
E ele pode ser adaptável para 80% das terras.
Okay, these videos,
Ainda não divulgou.
they put them together. Do you guys remember when
Isso ainda não é
Obama was the president and he went to Paris to sign the famous, what was the name of that thing?
Paris Agreement?
The agreement? Okay. They put these videos together for that occasion, okay? To go to talk about to the politicians about, you know, they were talking about the green deals and blah, blah, and it was all that big, you know, nonsense. And they were saying, no, should be the real green deal, how to change things around, okay? So that's what they did that for, and they presented over there. And of course, they're not selling solar panels, so probably they didn't make any money on that, or nobody heard them. Okay. So the whole point is they're using crops like that, not only to make money for themselves as farmers, but they're restoring a lot of the lands, and they're using the farm to pay for the restoration of it. See what I mean? Because if you go and want to restore places and bring them back to how they used to be, you gotta go around with a hat and say, hey, can you give me some money? I want to do this, right? You have to have a nonprofit or something like that. These guys are using farming to go back to native forest. It's kind of like what we do today, opposite, right? When we just got 10 acres and we talked about doing farming, everybody asked me, hey, is it clear cut already? And I'm like, what would I do that for? Okay, so you see, these guys are doing the opposite. They still use machinery. They still are doing, rows, but the goal is different. Okay.
O que nos interessa é dar voz para quem tem uma boa história para contar e para mostrar.
A cada 5 metros são partes.
Look at that. Have you ever seen a farm that looks like this? So basically what they're doing here is not just multi-crop. The idea behind this is to have something called succession. All right? Today, any farm, you go, what do you see? One plant, all the same, and you're waiting for it to grow all year long just to take it down, so then you replant it again later, right? So these guys, what they're doing is this: why can I not grow my cabbage while my corn is growing? See what I mean? Right there, that's a baby corn. And this is, the first right here is like some type of, what's like eggplant? That's a roselle, I believe. And then, so they have like about 10 different varieties growing simultaneously. So then one gives space for the next as it goes. So they don't have to keep on going over there to redo things all the time. Okay? And I'm talking all this nonsense, but eventually it's gonna make sense of why all this is important for the fruit club. Because you see what this has to do with fruits, okay? And we're going there.
Fruta e madeira. E no meio, entre essas linhas de fruta e madeira, a gente tem 3 linhas de horta. Esses hortas e esses conceitos de agrofloresta. O foco do nosso trabalho aqui é recuperação de solo com produção de hortaliça e futuração.
You see what he said right there? They are recovering the soil with an orchard for in the future to have fruit production. So they use first their orchard, their tomatoes, their cabbages, their zucchinis, their corns, so they can have fruit.
A gente tem que procurar um sistema para restaurar os ambientes que funcione, que produza e que retorne. Porque sustentabilidade tem que ser econômica, social e ambiental. Então, primeiro, vamos plantar floresta e vamos manejar a floresta, mostrando que o caminho para a floresta, conheci o Ernest, foi como se ele pegasse todos esses princípios que estavam numa nuvem, entendeu? E organizasse um foco. Você acha um indivíduo que está fazendo o que você sempre sonhou em fazer já há 30 anos na sua frente. Já com tudo realizado, tudo pronto, vivendo aquilo.
A gente vê que o João e o Ron são 2 jovens que decidiram questionar o modelo de sucesso e o padrão de vida que eles queriam para eles mesmos.
E dentro disso eu me encantei. Esse mundo de possibilidades de fazer ecologia na prática, não só da boca para fora.
O primeiro papel do Ernesto na minha vida foi esse, sem dúvida.
Brasilia, Brasilia is a place where they have this location here that is started in the 50s by one of their presidents. They decided to move the capital from Brazil, from Rio to Brasilia, just because it's right in the center. If you grab a ruler and you put it across and make a cross like this, you know, right in the center, that will be Brasilia. Okay, so Brasilia is a place that, because it's all the politicians and other things, ended up being a place with a lot of big cattle ranches, old money type of thing. So you get places, if you look around them, you see nothing was left, okay, besides grass. All right, so these guys, they started from zero. Okay, they started from a place that looked just like that. You know, a place that looks like California or something like that, completely, you know, burned down, and all the trees taken down, okay? So, how do you do this without having to bring a bunch of materials? How do you do this, you know, to bring a bunch of machinery and all that stuff, okay? But all this, cattle ranches, okay?
Hoje, quando a gente olha o ciclo deles, parece um pequeno oásis no meio de uma região que já foi muito degradada de práticas de agromineração pelo fogo.
Se você filmar ali, você vai ver qual era a situação anterior a esse sistema. Era um capim antropólogo, um sistema de acumulação inicial.
Okay. Okay, what happens is that when you take all the vegetation out, only certain things they grow, okay? And what they're talking about now is what it grows on places that are being devastated like that all the forests have been taken down. The only thing that will grow are things that are called pioneers or colonizers, or things that are very rough, things that might grow in the desert, things that they do not require any type of sophisticated soil or any type of moisture. They just are rough. They can grow anywhere. So when he goes and he says accumulation system, it means that in the long term, the function of that vegetation is to accumulate biomass. So that grass and all that stuff, what it's doing is accumulating. So eventually, nature knows better. You see, nature predicted that people were going to be a little cuckoo at some point, you know, and said, okay, you know, I have a solution. Don't worry about it, okay? And then created something that it will slowly restore itself. So an accumulation system, they refer, it happens in nature, anywhere, naturally through areas that have been, you know, taken down by fire or something like that, but they need to restore themselves and accumulate biomass again so they can have soil, fertile soil again, for larger and more sophisticated, you know, species to come.
Inicial. Nos primeiros plantios, quando a gente pega a terra do zero, são 10, 15 anos abandonados, não cresce
Look,
nada.
15 years abandoned and nothing besides that.
A vegetação não consegue mais vir, porque o sistema não permite isso, tanta degradação. Então, no início, a gente faz uma atuação semelhante à atuação da agricultura orgânica de alta escala. E aí, na sequência, quando a gente vai refazer as hortas, eu já começo, cada vez que eu faço uma horta nova, a gente já coloca bem mínimo. Pode tirar um menor antes nunca mais. Que é a correção do solo e...
I just want to show something really quick. Look at this type of system that they're doing here. This little more open leaf like that is cassava. Okay, so they're planting roots next to something like this one is taro. Okay, banana. You see, but they already chopped down a bunch of material that you can see between the rows. So nothing is exposed. You don't see soil exposed. In nature, you never see soil exposed. Like nowadays, you go into any farm and you see just soil. Why do we see soil? Nature never happens, okay? There'll be weeds, there'll be grasses, there'll be a little tree trying to grow. So we're always trying to battle that. And that's why they are always battling. This is what these guys are doing. The opposite. Go with it. If you want to cover up, right? I'll help you. So that's why by helping what nature is doing, speeds up their process.
A mineração, está colocando.
No momento que eu colher aqui, o solo vai estar melhor do que ele estava antes.
Esse é o nosso grande diferencial, porque aí com 2 anos, 3 anos, a gente já começa a ver a diferença. A gente não precisa mais repetir aquela adubação pesada. A água, cada vez eu uso, o solo está colando água. O tratorzinho, na hora que ele vai passar para fazer o processo novo, ele não precisa mais fazer tanta força, porque a terra está tão pouco, que só de passar a marcha leve, ele já, você gasta menos do caminho, porque a terra não vai compactar. Porque a chuva não compactar a terra, e a seca não deixa a terra seca. Então tudo, cada vez que a gente vai trabalhar, a gente está otimizando. Aquele capim de terra áspera, ele não entra aqui mais. Pode plantar ele aqui, ele não vai mais.
E é isso que o Ernest...
That is a big deal, what he just said. You don't have to battle it. You don't have to combat. You don't have to go and buy things to kill that grass. When you change the soil by changing the crops over and over and over, growing crops especially and only dedicated for the consumption, the accumulation of biomass, it will change the pH, it will change the amount of biomass you have available. What it will do is that you won't have to put any type of pesticides or anything that they will have to, kill weeds for you. They will just not go there, period, because they don't belong there. It's like trying to put a tree that you have a hard time right now, growing. Some people have a hard time with figs here or something like that, right? You see, when you understand where the tree belongs or where that plant belongs in nature, what are the requirements? Every species has developed itself for so long in somewhere in nature. And if we understand the environment where it evolved and we just mimic it, then we know where it belongs to and where it's not gonna do good. So those grasses or those invasive species or those things that people try to kill all the time in their yard or in their farms, there's no need to, if we understand where they're coming from and what are the conditions that they thrive. If you look more and more into the weeds especially, what they do is they have a nice taproot to open dry soil. If the soil is dry, they just rot and die, okay? And that's what he's saying, it will not come in here because it will just rot and die because it's a species that doesn't belong to, a place that retains so much water.
Quando eles falam de cultura de processos e não de cultura de insumos. Não tem nada problemático. No caso dele, houve uma adubação inicial para dar viabilidade econômica para o sistema desde a implantação, mas a diferença é que trabalhando desse jeito, em favor dos processos de vida, o cenário vai mudando, o ambiente vai melhorando progressivamente.
Então, o que a gente vê aqui é um exemplo de uma ação antrópica que tem um resultado mais benéfico para o ecossistema do que se o homem não estivesse ali presente.
A gente já está aqui com 2 anos e meio. Esse sistema, ele já tem a própria matéria orgânica dele só.
Okay, in 2.5 years, they went from something that had nothing, like you guys saw on the neighbor's property, okay, into this. They already have all those trees growing. They already have cacao, they already have coffee, they already have papaya, they already have banana, okay? Now, here they're using eucalyptus. They use a lot of eucalyptus because it's a fast-growing crop. And what they do is they just chop it down. That's why you guys saw it, they had no heads on it, because they're just using it to create more biomass for their system. So they use a tree that grows really fast, in that case the eucalyptus, and they just have it just to chop it and drop it. So that will feed their bananas, their cacaos, and everything else. All right?
Fora daqui, não preciso mais trazer matéria orgânica de fora. Se eu não quiser. Não é uma coisa de quando eu uso adubo aqui, eu estou jogando fora. Ao contrário da agricultura convencional, seja orgânica ou não. Quando a gente aduba aqui, a gente pega e transforma em 500. A gente não. Agrofloresta, 1 em 500. Na agricultura convencional, seja orgânica ou não, a gente põe 1 e daqui a pouco tem 0,3. Daqui a pouco tem que botar 2, não mais 1. Né? Porque a gente não está trabalhando com a vida, com os processos da vida. Então aqui a gente usa o mecanismo floresta, que é o motor que tira e faz o planeta respirar e viver na agrofloresta.
E aí, o fornecedor de biomassa, nesse caso, passou a ser a banana e o eucalipto, que são plantados nos canteiros.
Todo o bananal e a poda e a derivada do eucalipto que foi feito aqui, o material está todo organizado, cortado, triturado em cima e nos caminhos dentro dos canteiros, para que a gente consiga não criar valas nem criar ilhas de fertilidade, para que a gente consiga criar uma terra preta só.
Os ambientalistas não gostam do eucalipto, falam que ele acaba com o solo, que é isso e aquilo, mas na verdade a gente vê que esses são os que mais ajudam na recuperação do solo quando manejados da maneira.
One big thing about that, not just eucalyptus, okay, but in the case that we're just talking right now, any type of weeds or any type of invasive species, all right? Invasive species, what they do, and they are complaining about the eucalyptus here, what he says about the environmentalist, is that they come in and nature fills in a niche, a gap. Why does it come is because something was taken out that is creating a problem in the system. See, nature is always in balance. And when people come and start taking certain things out of that balanced state, start leaving gaps, okay? So that's one of the things that he's mentioned, and that's why it's not just the eucalyptus about they're not liking it because they complain about taking too much water and too many minerals out of the system, because they're just chopping and putting it down. Okay? It's about understanding there's a gap on the system.
Com as rodas, o sistema é uma bomba. Ele não para de produzir fotossíntese. Isso faz com que o ambiente fique evaporando água o tempo inteiro. Então a gente tem uma diferença brutal, né, para cerca de 20 a 30% de umidade no ar em.
Look at that. Okay. Some people ask me, oh man, what do you do here when it doesn't rain for 2 months? You don't have to, worry about it. All right? If you understand this, you won't go to Home Depot and spend money on plastic piping and put irrigation. Okay? I did the trial this dry time before this super wet days that we're having. We had like about 2 months of no rain and extreme heat. Okay? And we're able to grow lettuce from seed without irrigation on the no trees around, nothing, just boom, the sun, okay, beating on it every single day. And then we saw one irrigation, okay? It grows, okay? If you know how to do this kind of stuff, you don't have to be doing all that kind of, paraphernalia, all right?
Uma parte ele maneja tática, colher a polpa. E por outro lado ele maneja parte as verduras, então poda elas, periodicamente. Você quer verduras, planta bananeira. Aí você tem verdura. E você quer verduras, planta eucalipto, nesse contexto, para ter verduras. Você vê a poda, seja for podada, resultado dessa poda são esses mandioca, é o batata doce, é o milho, é comida. E do outro lado é couve, é inhame, é comida. O eucalipto dando comida. E não secando o solo.
You see these guys, what they did, instead of, because they were in the middle of nowhere, they had to resort to pay attention to nature. See, for us now, it is too easy to just, let me go to Home Depot and blah, blah, get some stuff, or let me go down to a nursery, or whatever, right? So if we will spend more time paying attention to nature, and less time thinking the quick fix to go to a store and buy things, then we'll be in their position right now.
Excuse me,
Yes.
but I think there's a big difference in the sand that we have here to what they have over there.
You know what that sand is? Do you know what that soil is?
I don't know.
I'll
But
tell you what it
looks
is.
a lot richer than what we have here.
But not when they started. Okay, that area, there's two things in that area. Rock, because it's a high plateau, basically, and clay. I lived in Brazil for 10 years.
Right.
Okay, and that's why I was able to learn from these people, because I went straight to them and I was able to understand them. Okay, because they don't speak English. Okay, so over there you have clay, and clay is as difficult or more difficult to grow certain things than in sand. Okay, it's very challenging to grow in clay, because in clay what happens is this: you put a little bit of water on top of clay,
And it stays there.
it stays there.
Right.
You have zero percolation,
Yeah.
zero. Here at least you have a little percolation. You have some stuff that is decomposing on top, that's gonna decompose, and it's gonna become almost like a compost tea for your plants, and they will go. Okay, it's things that they grow over there, different. Okay, so it's not about, oh, my thing is more difficult than yours or whatever. When we understand how to work with nature, we can work it anywhere.
I understand, but how long does it take? How long does it take from starting to work the ground to actually having good?
Well, this that I'm showing,
Yes,
they're showing a video 2.5 years into it.
yeah, that's,
Okay,
that's, yeah,
starting from scratch, and starting from a place that just looked like grass,
yeah,
not bringing anything from outside.
yeah.
You know, just putting eucalyptus and a bunch of banana trees and certain things that they don't require a lot of, you know, input. That they don't require a lot of compost and other things, so they can just grow and they can do it as they go. See what I mean? Because if you have the capacity to bring a truckload of, you know, of compost, fantastic. All it's gonna do, if you understand this, is gonna speed up your process.
Right.
That's all it's gonna do. It's not gonna do it. It's just like you're just expediting your process, okay? But one of the things that they're not talking about over there, okay, is that when you cut those trees down, you have a root system. Okay? So you're not working only on the chopping from the top to down, but when you cut a whole tree, all of a sudden you have feet, hundreds of feet of like root systems. And all that is just becoming a super deep topsoil. All right? So you're adding to your sand a bunch of topsoil, but it's already buried in the ground. Okay? So that's gonna do is gonna bring a lot of also mycorrhiza, a lot of bacteria, a lot of worms. All right?
I don't know where you left off, so you'll have to go. Leave your questions to the end, please. You, leave your questions.
It's all right.
You ever been 3 meetings and now you're busting his chops? Come on, give me a break.
That's all right. It's
You
cool.
think Dolores is sucking him off?
The thing is, it's like a. No, but it's good. I mean, I just want to share something also. These people have a project in Tanzania. They have another project in Morocco. Okay, they're going to the Sahara Desert in Morocco and redoing it. Okay, and trust me, they're not bringing rolls of, you know, irrigation systems. All right.
Uma terra preta só.
E os ambientalistas não gostam do eucalipto, falam que ele
Okay, I think we saw
acaba
this.
com o solo, que é isso e aquilo, mas na verdade a gente vê que esses são os que mais ajudam na recuperação.
Que é verduras, planta bananeira, é couve, é inhame, é comida.
Uma vez entendida a lógica do sistema, o agricultor participa como ser criativo e conduz o plantio de acordo com a sua necessidade ou a sua vocação.
A gente vai colher a rúcula, vai colher o alface, vai colher o milho, depois vai colher a batata doce. E a gente depois decide.
You see, all that he said in that order, and they planted it all at the same time. Okay? That's how they restore the soil at the same time. And they don't have to go over and over and over and say, okay, I'm gonna put my little kale here, I'm gonna wait all year long, I'm gonna just protect it, you know, be sure there's nothing attacking it, you know, there's enough. They just plant all of it together and then just go back just to harvest. Once a month, once every 2 months, whenever that time is. Okay? And that's why the system can keep on regenerating itself. Instead of just going, protecting, and, you know.
Os bananeiros já vão ter crescido, os eucaliptos já vão ter voltado. A gente decide se a gente vai continuar fazendo horta naquele talhão ou vai entrar já no sistema de sombra, fruta e água fresca.
Por exemplo,
You see, the shaded fruit came after. So why don't we cannot do that here? No problem.
Os roças aqui que foram as primeiras que eu fiz. A primeira que eu colhi foi a alface. No momento que eu colhi a alface, o brócolis já estava formado. E no momento que o brócolis sai, o mandiocal já está estabelecido. Como a gente faz essa sucessão de cultivos, a gente utiliza de uma forma mais inteligente esse recurso que a gente tem, né, que é a terra.
Nesse meio aqui, eu trabalhei com horta 4 vezes, ou 5, refazendo a horta, né, enquanto as faixas de fruta estão crescendo. Então agora, como a gente está precisando plantar café e cacau, eu peguei essa área, que já tem 2 anos, e que a terra já está muito melhorada, de derrubada de banana e poda de árvore, de eucalipto, o tempo todo descendo, triturando e botando no chão. Agora a gente estabeleceu cacau, café e mamão. Então agora isso aqui você trabalha na sombra, colhendo banana, fazendo poda de árvore e colhendo fruta.
A lógica desses...
You see, but he's getting banana. The reason of he's getting banana is to irrigate the system, to bring biomass to the system, and what else?
Give shade for those 2 plants that need it.
And what else?
Harvest bananas as well.
He's making money with a banana while his cacao is growing. All right, he's not just waiting there. He's like, okay, I'm gonna protect you for 5 years, and then hoping that for 5 years you're gonna be okay, and in 5 years I'm gonna start making money. The guy that does that spends 5 years expending money and time and getting nothing in return. And all he's doing is just putting soil and putting this and putting that nonstop. Okay, these guys are doing the opposite. They're making money, they're eating, they're getting the stuff at the same time.
Não é essa. E está sempre também buscando ocupar os estratos, ou seja, o mandioca que é o extrato alto, o eucalipto aqui ficou o extrato emergente, a banana está no extrato médio.
Does everybody know what strata means? By the way? He's talking about strata right now.
Level.
The level. Basically, it's like, doesn't have to be in a certain measurement, okay, but is the ratio where the plants belong into the scale of height between them. So usually you have about 5 or 6 levels, okay? Doesn't matter. In a whole area that are, let's say something grows only 6 feet, okay? That will be your emergent or your higher. And you have something that is a ground cover or a ground crop, and then 2 or 3 layers in between. But if you go, let's say, to Northern California, you have those redwoods, then that is gonna be your emergent tree. Okay, so it doesn't matter about how high or how big they are, it's in relation between all of the plants in the system. And usually you have about 6 layers, okay?
Foi interessante observar que eles realmente incorporaram os conceitos do Ernest e passaram a aplicar a técnica de forma muito consciente.
A sucessão vegetativa com o espaçamento e a ocupação dos andares do tempo, e aí a poda das árvores, a poda das bananeiras, a poda das fruteiras. Esse trabalho da poda, de trazer o material para baixo o tempo todo, é o grande barato do trabalho da Ernest, que eu nunca vi por aí.
O que a gente precisa é adequar tanto a questão do cultivo, ou seja, agronômico, para que a gente possa realmente produzir alimento, recuperar o solo, atender a demanda do mercado e que a gente possa ser feliz. A ideia é essa.
O grande barato é realmente as grandes possibilidades que tem. E quando você entende como funciona a sucessão natural vegetativa e coloca a produção de alimento nesse formato, que é a tecnologia natural que o planeta usa, a gente entra no mecanismo, numa sincronicidade com o planeta. Então, esse é o trabalho da Ernest. Ele entendeu como funciona a floresta e ele coloca, então, a produção de alimento para funcionar na engrenagem do planeta. Esse é o trabalho da abundância, para a gente chegar num estado de abundância.
When he's talking about towards abundance, it's not just abundance as far as growing a lot of food or the abundance that we consider. Is the abundance is the stage. Remember, we were talking about accumulation phase. Okay, this is the abundance phase. Means that you already have enough really rich topsoil that it can grow delicate plants. For example, fruit trees, they require more, water retention or more nutrients or something like that. Okay, so it's not just abundance as a concept, but it's like referred to a specific stage when the land can provide certain things for us. Okay, but the idea is eventually, and the person that Ernest Koch, the older gentleman that you guys saw talking, at some point his farm looked like this, and nowadays is a protected space in Brazil because it has so many native species that he restored back the natives as they used to be. And now about 1,000 acres of those 1,500 acres that I told you are completely preserved, untouchable. Okay, but it started like this.
Reestruturar as terras de cultura do Brasil. O Brasil é terra de cultura de ponta a ponta, e a gente conseguiu em 50 anos degradar tudo. Então, a gente tem condição de fazer um trabalho de 20, 25 anos, recuperar toda essa terra degradada no Brasil, produzindo alimento, 70 a 80 toneladas por hectare ano de comida.
And by the way, do you guys know any about numbers? What he said right now?
No.
80 tons per hectare. A hectare is 2.5 acres. So these people are harvesting 70 to 80 tons of food per 2.5 acres. All right, and what he's saying is this: everything has been degraded for about 50 years, and Brazil started a little later. Here started a little, quite before that. What they're saying is that if you apply this, you can bring everything back in about 20 years or less. Okay, there's no need for a place like the United States to remove and do the clear cutting that everybody does. Okay, just to produce whatever they want to produce. Okay, right now I have a neighbor, it's all oranges, and they have just big clear cut and only that. There's no need to take their slash pine. There's no need to take your palmettos. There's no need. If you understand the concept and understand the system, it helps. Okay?
Os resultados têm dado legitimidade para esse sistema, né? E naturalmente atraiu o interesse das instituições de pesquisa e de extensão rural. Como é que a gente traz de volta a árvore para a propriedade rural? Porque o produtor tem um pouco de... Sabe, ele como demora muito para ele ganhar dinheiro, então a árvore para ele é um problema, não é uma solução.
Tecnicamente, nós sabemos o quanto a proposta da agrofloresta ela cabe, né, numa pequena propriedade, numa média, até grande propriedade. Mas, do ponto de vista econômico, como que isso funciona? Porque muita gente, muitos técnicos e agricultores perguntam isso para nós, né?
A gente entra no sistema de produção de grão e de verdura, que é o que o Brasil produz hoje em larga escala, trabalhando com a agrofloresta junto, a gente consegue, com a produção de verdura e grão, estabelecer as fruteiras de graça, que é o que está acontecendo aqui. Isso aqui está de graça. Esse café, esse mamão, esse cacau já se pagou. Essa laranja nem produziu ainda, já se pagou. Porque a verdura que foi colhida aqui já pagou as mudas dele. Já pagou o adubo, já pagou a matéria-prima, já pagou a mão de obra. Para desmistificar aquela coisa que a agrofloresta demora muito, né? E que, então tem que esperar a fruta, são 5, 6 anos para começar a ganhar dinheiro. Aqui não.
Então essa oportunidade de trabalhar aqui no sítio do Guan está nos trazendo exatamente de uma forma muito aplicada. Nós temos espécies nativas que ele usa aqui, nós temos esse consórcio de espécies anuais com espécies perenes, onde a gente vai poder calcular, então, junto com a Universidade de Brasília, nós temos um professor da Universidade de Brasília, nós temos um professor lá da Embrapa Floresta, que tem uma planilha onde ele coloca quais são as espécies que estão entrando no sistema, quando que ela entra, quando que ela sai, e aí você avalia quanto que você gastou para plantar, quanto você está tirando para vender, para que a gente possa avaliar esse tipo de modelo de plantio que está sendo feito aqui.
Conhece o conceito?
I just want to share really quick. Lately, a few numbers came out. Okay, so what we're talking about here is like, if you're a producer and you want to make money and blah 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 blah. Not our case, because we just want to grow food for like enthusiasm, but what the people that actually live of agriculture, large scale agriculture, what can they do to apply this, and how does that translate into their numbers? Okay, so that's why all those people from the universities came in so they can evaluate and see how much they were returning financially. And recently the numbers, even on corn, they were able to match the GMO production. Okay, so that is unheard of. They're able to grow as much per acre. Okay, their yield was the same. One of the problems that many people bring up is organic agriculture is not as good, so we have less yield. It takes more money to grow it, and that's why we have to charge more money. this guy is saying there's no need to charge more money for a lot better food.
Transição na propriedade rural, mas a gente também tem um processo de transição ecológica dentro das instituições públicas, principalmente, né? E a gente tem que ter a tranquilidade, a paciência de entender que nas universidades, com algumas exceções atuais, pessoas formadas há 10 anos atrás não acessaram esse tipo de conhecimento, né? Não havia disciplina que abordasse sistemas agroflorestais nessa proposta de sistemas agroflorestais biodiversos.
Quando você fala de um sistema desse que usa 30 espécies, uma entrando em um determinado momento, outra saindo, isso dificulta muito essa análise. Mas não torna impossível. O diálogo desses saberes técnicos e do produtor ainda está muito longe. Eles estão falando, cada um no seu canto ainda. Nós queremos aproximar essas pessoas para realmente ter um diálogo, para não ficar monólogo de cada lado.
De antemão.
See, what we're talking about is that one of the challenges that we have been getting used to the idea of almost monocropping everything. See, and the reason is because it's much easier for corporations to just go and train somebody to sit down on a John Deere tractor, push the lever forward, and harvest 1,000 acres of corn. They don't need any brains, they don't need any education. When you have 30 species growing together, you need to invest on education, okay? So this is what they're talking about, and that's what he's saying. People that they want to be big producers, they're speaking in different, languages, is because those guys, they rather, spend $200,000 on a tractor and not $200,000 on people and, training and all that, because people complain, they get hurt, they get sick, they can sue them, all right? Now this is a different concept, okay? It's going back to how things used to be before, where you need to have a little bit of brains, and you have to be a good person.
A percepção que nós temos, a gente sabe que funciona economicamente, mas é bom ter os números na mão também.
Falando em viabilidade econômica, a gente acompanhou o Rômulo em um dia de feira, que é uma das portas de escoamento da produção deles. A feira, além de recriar um espaço de convívio, é um ótimo ambiente para a gente avaliar o grau de ressonância dessas ideias, né? Para a gente ver o quanto que tem de gente por aí disposta a se responsabilizar pelas escolhas que faz na hora de comprar sua própria comida.
Então a feira ela tem esse papel que para mim é fundamental, que é de aproximar as pessoas, aproximar essas duas realidades e devolver ao agricultor a importância que ele realmente tem.
E você tem um alimento que você confia em quem produz, confia na forma como ele é produzido, faz muita diferença.
Parte das pessoas daqui já foram meus alunos, além de apoiá-los na iniciativa, eu consumo esses produtos em casa e daí eu consumo com a certeza de que eles estão sendo produzidos dentro daquilo que a gente espera da agroecologia, com os benefícios ambientais, sociais, que são inerentes a esse tipo de produção.
Gosto muito da energia que eles transmitem, que é uma energia de entusiasmo. O entusiasmo move as pessoas.
E confia que estou no caminho certo. Trabalhar para criarmos áreas de inclusão permanente e não áreas de proteção permanente do ser humano. AIP. E essa aqui seria o começo de uma AIP.
Não é só uma utopia. A gente deve ser assim. Não, ele é assim. No dia a dia dele. Desde a hora que ele acorda até a hora que ele vai dormir. Então, a vida dele é produzir mais energia do que consome. Fazer floresta o tempo todo. Né? Floresta de comida. Uma floresta mais bonita que eu já vi. E eu acredito que não tem outra mais bonita que aquela do mundo. A gente deve falar do que eu quero saber.
Okay. All right. Questions? Yeah.
So, invasive species like over here Melaleuca, and like you mentioned also some palmettos, leave it there and grow. It's like there's a ton of it. I gotta.
Fantastic.
Where do I plant my stuff?
Instead of you having to plant a banana or eucalyptus or whatever else to bring your system, into like a place that has a lot of biomass, you already have it there growing. So use it for your own benefit.
What do you do with the eucalyptus and the palmetto?
You chop it, you
cut it.
You cut it.
Got
Yeah,
it.
you can prune it if you want to,
Got it.
or you can just take it down. the whole thing.
And
But the
then-
idea is that you use it to build a biomass in your area.
And then do you treat the Melaleuca? Because a lot of people, after they cut it, they're concerned that they're growing back again. So what?
Fantastic.
So that what happens?
Then you
is-
have more biomass coming.
So don't even touch it.
That's what a lot of people here do. Shelley does that up in Buckingham. We were at her house and she grows Mexican sunflower, which is a super fast growing plant
Right,
for green.
chop and drop.
That's exactly what
It's
she
a
does,
chop
and that's
and
what
drop.
that's how you build the soil. But it continually.
Yeah.
Continually
The
works
difference
that
is between the, let's say, Mexican sunflower, it has a root system this big. All right? Melaleuca will have a 10-foot root system. So you have different things that's happening right there, okay? And also you don't have to wait for something else to come that you want to grow for biomass. You see, when we're thinking, what these people are trying to say is this: I want to grow fruit, I need to plant something else that's going to give me the soil that I want for that fruit to grow successfully. So in that case, your Melaleuca is helping. Gotcha? Yes.
Is this farm near Brasilia?
Yes. That one particularly is near Brasilia, but they have them all over the planet.
The thing